and welcome into Getting Help from Uncle Sam. If you're in the coverage area of watching this program, you're probably in the 2nd Congressional District. In that area, you're going to have a representative. Their job is to represent your views in Washington, D.C. And today we have with us our guest, Congresswoman Martha Roby, and you are the representative for the 2nd District right now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
And poor thing, you know, you're in a job where I was telling somebody earlier, if I own a business, if my approval rating of my business was real low, I'd say, woo, we got to do something.
Yes.
And that's a sad thing that's happening, is when everybody says anything about Congress, it's always a low approval, but you're trying to do a great job up there.
Absolutely. Let me just first say how grateful I am for the opportunity to have served in this position. I'm in my 8th year, my 4th term, and I feel like in spite of the political environment in which we've had to work with the previous administration, we've really gotten a lot accomplished on behalf of the American people and certainly the people in Alabama's 2nd District. And now in this new administration, we've had some real opportunities to provide regulatory relief. And of course, with the historic Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that we just passed, so that more Alabamians can take home of what they earn, the money that belongs to them. And we're just seeing more economic growth from this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act bill that we passed than even analysts could predict. Right now, there's up to 4 million employees in the United States of America that have either received an increase in pay or a bonus as a result of this bill. So we've got a lot of good stuff going on, and you talked about approval ratings.
Yes.
I was studying with my daughter for a civics test the other night, and I said, now just remember, the Congress is everybody, but if you've got to talk specifically about the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. So the House of Representatives has been working really in lockstep with the administration, with President Trump, to ensure that we're getting these things across the finish line. The problem is that we're all very frustrated with the United States Senate right now and their inability, due to their own rules, to be able to move legislation to the president's desk. And quite frankly, all of this conservative policy that we've passed in the House of Representatives, it's far too important to die in the United States Senate. And so we continue to push the United States Senate towards these conservative policies that we've put forward that we know will be helpful to the American people. That's
right. A lot of our viewers were concerned with the new budget that passed, and it seems some things leak out that perhaps Planned Parenthood is still in there because, you know, obviously in the 2nd Congressional District, very conservative, very religious people, and you've got a new light on that.
Well, let me just tell you.
Or the light on it.
Well, first and foremost, I'm unapologetically pro-life, and I've counted a tremendous privilege to fight for those who don't have a voice to fight for themselves. And we fight for life at every stage, but to be a voice for the unborn in the United States Congress is a tremendous privilege and something that I take very seriously. There is a lot of misinformation out there about the spending bill that we passed. There are individuals that are saying that this bill provides taxpayer dollars for abortion. And let me just be very clear. There is no taxpayer funding for abortion in this spending bill. Even the White House put out a statement confirming that all of the pro-life riders that were in the original appropriations bill are in this spending bill. So I just can't say that enough. There is no taxpayer dollars being used for abortion in this spending bill. And so, you know, and that brings me to a larger point that when you hear things, even on news stations that you think are more compatible with your views and philosophy, we still have to double check. And I invite anybody to pick up the phone and call our office. We're happy to provide them, not just with our opinion, but with concrete facts that show and can maybe dispel some of the misinformation that is out there.
That's needed, yeah.
Martha, if you had to pick 2 things, make it 3, that if you go back in, that you would really, really want to work toward, what would they be?
Well, sure. Well, first and foremost, are working for our men and women who wear the uniform. Again, just like fighting for the unborn, what a privilege to be on the front line, making sure that our men and women who wear the uniform have everything that they need, the best training, the best equipment when we send them into harm's way.
Amen.
And that's another big part about this spending bill. It is the highest defense number that I've seen since I've been in Congress. And of course, through the Budget Control Act, there were just devastating cuts to the United States military during the time of our previous president.
Right.
And so now we have the opportunity to provide certainty to our military leaders that the funding will be there so that they can train and equip our men and women to do the job that we ask them to do. So I'm very, very pleased about that, and I will continue every day. I serve on the Defense Subcommittee on Appropriations, which funds the United States military. So when it comes to Alabama and it comes to things like, you know, F-35 and Lakota helicopters, I have a seat at the table to make sure, and Austell down in Mobile, the LCS that they're building down there. That's why it's so important to have a seat at that table, so I can make sure that our military footprint here in Alabama has the funding needed to do all of the things that we do. Secondly, I would say fighting for Alabama's farmers and our agriculture. As you know, agriculture is the #1 industry in our state, and we're about to mark up another 5-year farm bill. And the authorizers, the Committee on Agriculture, actually writes the 5-year farm bill, but it's the appropriators who fund those programs year after year after year. And so I have a great relationship with the chairman of the Agriculture Committee. He's met with each of us regionally so we could lay out for him the things that are important to us, so we make sure that our commodities here in Alabama, whether it's cotton, peanuts, soybeans, poultry, timber, cattle, that everything is treated fairly within that farm policy. But then as an appropriator, again, a very important role that I'm grateful to have is once that farm bill gets across the finish line and that farm policy is in place for 5 years, then I as an appropriator get to make sure that all of those programs are properly funded so our farmers can do what they do best, which is provide food and fiber for the United States of America and the world. And then lastly, I would say continuing the fight for our nation's veterans. You watched here in Central Alabama as the atrocities were brought forth of what was happening at Central Alabama Veterans Health System. I have worked for years to help make improvements. We finally have a permanent director, Dr. Linda Bull. She's doing a fantastic job, but it's a big stinky onion, and every time we pull back a layer, we find something else. And so I would say, if given the opportunity to continue to serve in Congress, I would want everyone to know that even though it may drop from the headlines, continuing to fight for our veterans, those who have put their lives on the line for the freedoms that we enjoy every single day, will continue to be a top priority for me.
Well, listen, thank you for what you've been doing. Quickly, we're going to put on the screen if somebody wants to reach you. We're going to have all the information about your office.
Absolutely, thank you.
And as we tell everybody, talk to your representatives. They represent you. Normally talk to them when Congress is not in session, because then they've got an open ear. When Congress is in session, it's the wrong time to do it. And we'll be right back right after this.